Amanda Cadabra and the Nightstairs by Holly Bell. Read by Holly Bell. Chapter 1. A Grand Opening. It was a blissfully sunny August Sunday, and, as the villagers expected, Amanda Cadabra and her irascible feline companion were making their way towards their favourite picnic spot. Jonathan, the dazzlingly handsome but incurably shy assistant librarian, had raised a hand in greeting as they'd passed. Witch and Familiar took the slope up towards their goal at a gentle pace. Amanda, because exertion was no friend to her asthma; Tempest, because he believed that rush was a speed reserved for extreme emergencies, but otherwise for peasants. He sniffed delicately in the direction of the picnic basket. Amanda chuckled. "Can you really smell ham through the container? It has a tight lid. Not that lids or locks have ever held you back, Mr. Fuffy Wuffy. Well, you won't have to wait much longer for lunch." Their goal was in sight. The 1,000-year-old priory, long since an unremarkable ruin, lay on the northern edge of the peaceful English village of Sunken Madley. It was situated just before the last of the habitations gave way to the trees of old Madley Wood. Years ago, Amanda had illicitly, but very discreetly, used some magic to erect a platform on what remained of a portion of the upper floor. They would visit on fine Sundays, Amanda to think, and Tempest to survey his kingdom and eat. But today was going to be different. Amanda felt it before she saw it in the shadows. She stopped a few yards away, staring towards the ground. "Oh, Tempest! Oh, no! Not here! Please let it not be here!" Several days earlier, Detective Inspector Thomas Trelawney of the Devon and Cornwall Police, now also of the London Metropolitan Police, was standing in his new office. It was strongly redolent of fresh paint and new carpet. The office, together with his flat, occupied part of the ground floor of the Elms, one of the largest and oldest establishments of Sunken Madley. The village, still rural in spirit, was pleasantly situated just 3 miles south of the Hertfordshire border and 13 miles north of the Houses of Parliament. It was rather different from his Cornish coastal hometown of Parhale, but all in all, Trelawney was happy to be here. Having looked around the room, he turned his hazel eyes toward Brian Branscombe, the village builder, and smiled. "You've done wonders, Mr. Branscombe." "Thank you, Inspector. Very nice of you to say so." Brian pushed his hands more deeply into the pockets of his light grey overalls and gazed at the carpet to hide a blush. He was still getting used to accepting compliments. Brian looked up again at a slight angle, being somewhat shorter than Trelawney's 6 feet. "Sorry about the delays," he said for the umpteenth time, "but the gas explosion at the Putnams left them without a kitchen, so I couldn't leave them, and then I had to sort out the plumbing at Pipkin Acres. It's a residential home after all." "That's quite all right. I've been busy with various things in Cornwall myself, and I believe Miss Cadabra has had a few rush jobs on. But here we are now, and I can see it's been well worth the wait." "Thank you, Inspector. Here, would you like to check the facilities?" Thomas had already been shown the milestones in the refurbishment of his new flat and office as they'd been reached. However, this had something of the air of a grand opening, albeit with just the two of them. Brian had cleverly made the small loo appear to be part of the stretch of cupboards that ran from the right-hand edge of that essential room to the end of the wall opposite where the desk would be. That centrepiece of furniture was to be set in front of the attractive bay window, with the door to the hallway of the elms on the left and the entrance to Thomas's new flat on the right. The woodwork was painted matte white, the walls were mushroom, and the carpet a warm beige. Pleasant, welcoming, and serviceable. "The desk will be over this afternoon," Brian told him. "As soon as Miss Cadabra has finished with it, I'll bring it over." "Thank you, Brian. I don't know how you managed to get it to her workshop." A generous present at the end of the last case, and something of an heirloom. It was a gift from Miss Armstrong Whitworth of the Grange. A handsome Victorian partner desk. It was furniture crafted to last, and, thought Thomas, must weigh a considerable amount. "Oh, that's all right, Inspector. All part of the service. Moffat helped me to get it into the van to take to Miss Cadabra. You wouldn't think a man of his age could be that strong. Must be one of them bodybuilders in his spare time. Iskender, who owns the kebab shop?" checked Trelawney, who was still getting to know the village. "That's right. Gave me a hand at the other end, and then Marcus, your neighbour, will help me to get back here." "But I can—" No, Marcus says he wants to do it, what with you sorting out that business and clearing his name as a suspect and all." "Most kind. You must let me give—" "No, Inspector, that's quite all right. Mrs. James takes care of all of that. But I wouldn't say no to a jar down Sinners when we're both free. You're on." "Did I hear my name spoken?" asked Irene, knocking on the office door that gave onto the hall. "But not in vain, I assure you. Come in, Mrs. James," called Trelawney. "Thank you, Inspector." His new landlady trod lithely into the room and turned her head, adorned with short blonde hair, towards her builder. "All done then, Brian?" "All done, Mrs. James. Just the desk arriving soon. And I expect Miss Cadabra told you, Inspector, she's waiting on the staining of your coffee table for the sitting room until you've seen the colour of the leather on the desk. So the two echo, as they say, in different parts of the flat." "Of course Amanda told the Inspector," said Irene, smiling at Thomas and briefly laying a maternal hand on his grey suit-jacketed arm. "It's all absolutely splendid, Brian. What about the flat?" "Perfect," said Trelawney. Good. Well, Brian, I think you deserve a bonus." "Very kind of you, Mrs. James." Then, nodding brightly at Trelawney, "You and Miss Cadabra can start work then." "Not yet," stated Irene firmly. "The paintwork and carpet need airing for at least 3 days, I'd say. There'll be no friend to her asthma else. Is the paint on the window frames dry, Brian?" "Yes, completely." "Well then, with your permission, Inspector, if you're going to be here for a while." Irene began to open all of the windows, top and bottom. "Ah, yes, good idea," Thomas approved. He went into his flat through the door at the right-hand end of the office and opened the entrance to the side passage that ran between the house and the annex, which he knew all too well. He opened the kitchen windows and the French windows, giving onto the extensive garden, with its distinctive avenue of elms that gave the house its name and had featured so significantly in the last case. The memory flickered through Thomas's mind before being recalled to the present by the voice of approval from Irene. "That'll get a good through draft." 3 days, Trelawney checked, for all of the chemical odours to dissipate. "Yes, then," advised Irene, "ask Amanda to come and try it."